Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Andrews. Today we're talking about the Chapter 21 timeline assignment. It's due this year on May 1st, 2014. You must have the following 15 dates. You can see them over here on the left. Also remember that I'm asking you to use the vocabulary terms for this chapter. You can find those in your workbook and highlight them in your timeline comments. We'll be watching short video clips each day on these 15 dates. I will also be talking about them here today for those of you that were missing for choir practice today. Extra credit can be earned if you add the video clips into the timeline assignment, and I'm only looking for 15 entries, but if you add any dates, I will look at those as extra credit. Today we talked about the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. Remember that as we go through this chapter, all of these dates and all of the decisions made in Congress are debating the idea of slavery and keeping a balance in Congress as far as slave states and free states and trying to hold the nation together. As you do the reading through the chapter, you'll find the South always uses, or seems to always use, the idea of secession or breaking away from the United States if their needs are not met. It's a very difficult time for Congress, a very difficult time for the nation. And it starts with 1787 when a line was made using the Ohio River saying that states north, or states that would become part of the Northwest Territory north of the Ohio River, would remain slave-free or free states: Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, etc. And states below the Ohio River or south of the Ohio River would allow slavery: Kansas or Kentucky, Tennessee, Louisiana, Mississippi. In 1819, Alabama wants to become a state and asks for it to be accepted as a slave state, which made sense at the time because of its location. Missouri also wanted to become a state at that time, and the Ohio River stops at the Mississippi River. And Missouri, therefore, could not become a slave state because of the fact that if you were continuing the Ohio River, you would see that Missouri, the majority of Missouri, falls north of the Ohio River line. So a decision had to be made in Congress at the time. Adding Missouri would unbalance the number of representatives in the Senate, being the two per state. So in 1819, things were left undone. In 1820, when Congress comes back, lo and behold, Maine also wants to join our union. So Missouri's added as a slave state, Maine is added as a free state. But at that time, Congress decides, hey, Ohio River doesn't go through, we better do something about this. And they use the latitude line of 3630 across the United States as a line where slavery would be allowed north of it, slavery would be allowed south of it, and free states would be north of it as we develop the Louisiana Territory. Of course, that gets put aside in 1850, which we'll get to in just a minute. 1831, the Nat Turner Slave Rebellion. You can look that one up in your book, along with the gag rule. John Quincy Adams also tries to pass new slave laws in 1845, and they are denied. Finally, in 1849, California is applying for statehood and wants to enter as a free state, and eventually does. But Congress again has a problem with balancing the books. So in 1850, our friend from the 1820 Compromise, the Missouri Compromise, Henry Clay, along with Daniel Webster, come up with a plan called the 1850 Compromise. And in that plan, there are four important things that you need to remember. First, California would be added as a free state. Second, New Mexico and Utah would be able to choose. As those territories become states, they would be able to choose whether or not slavery would be allowed. And this choosing, or this choice made by the people, is known as popular sovereignty. Very important that you remember that. Learn it now, so when you're 40 years old, you don't have to try to figure out what popular sovereignty means. The third thing was the end of the slave trade in Washington, D.C. Remember, this is at the heels of the Second Great Awakening. Abolitionists, religious people, many people in the North and in the South are begging Congress to end slavery. Congress is saying because of states' rights, because of the 9th and 10th Amendment, we can't do that. But they can do something in the District of Columbia, because that's where they are. And so to appease the Northerners, to please them, to get them off their backs, they say, okay, we will no longer allow slave trade in Washington, D.C. No buying and selling of slaves in Washington, D.C. Of course, remember, that makes Northerners and abolitionists happy, and it makes the Southerners unhappy. Finally, the fourth thing in the in the 1850 Compromise is the Fugitive Slave Law. And this law basically said if a slave runs away, it's everyone's duty to help the owner of that slave. Remember, slaves are considered to be property. It's everyone's duty to help that owner get that slave back. So as they sent bounty hunters into the North to return the slaves or to hunt the slaves down, it was against the law, basically, for Northerners to assist the slave. That's why the Underground Railroad was so important. It was the hiding and transporting of escaped slaves into free area, most likely Canada at most times. Finally, the last date we looked at today was 1851, and that's the writing by Harriet Beecher Stowe of the book Uncle Tom's Cabin. Basically, this book woke everyone up. The people that had not yet known the details of slavery. This book was first released as snippets in a newspaper, an abolitionist newspaper. In 1852, it became a book and it became a play that was read and shown throughout the country, and kind of woke people up to the terribleness of slavery. That's it for today's lesson. For those of you that were at choir practice today, I hope this helps you out. Remember, the dates are up here now. If you have to go back and look at this, this is, again, due on May 1st, a week from today, and that day is a day you will also have your test on Chapter 21. Make it a great day. I'll see you soon.